Good morning. Oh, that's much better. I'm not a teacher, but I just felt so teachery right there. I'd like to welcome everybody today to our first Eggs and Issues of this legislative season. And my name is Jada Breeden. I'm the director at the Guyman Chamber of Commerce. So I'd like to first of all thank Apollo MedFlight for sponsoring breakfast. So as you're enjoying breakfast, remember, that they deserve a big round because that is really good and filling. And now I want to take a nap. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Recognize a couple of groups this morning. We have the ambassadors. I'm a little tired today, so my brain is not functioning. And if you don't know who they are, some of them are wearing their bright orange coats. But if you're an ambassador, I'm not going to make you stand. If you'll just wave to everybody. Ambassadors are very active in our community. We appreciate everything that they do. We also have the Leadership Guyman Class of 2018 with us today. So if you guys will wave. There's 15 in the class, and they range from all different kinds of businesses and organizations in our community, and they typically grow up to be leaders in our community after they've finished this. So they're kind of plugged in a different way, so hopefully we'll get to be able to see how they... Today is a quality of life session, I guess. Sorry. And so they get to see a different side of Guyman, so we're excited for them to be able to do that. There's a couple of things that we do at Eggs and Issues, and for those of you that haven't attended before, I'll just kind of briefly explain. We have Senator Langford's field representative, Tanner Roberts, here today. Yay, Tanner. He joined us a couple of days this week and went to the Excellence in Ag banquet last night. He was really impressed with the people in our area, the ag community. And we have Representative Casey Murdoch. Well, we're going to start with Mr. Roberts. He's going to kind of let us know what's happening on that end of the spectrum.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to be here today. My name is Tanner Roberts. I am new to the position. I'm the Northwest Oklahoma Field Representative for Senator Langford. I'm originally from Enid, and I graduated from Oklahoma State in December. Just a refresher to remind you all, Senator Langford sits on the Appropriations, Homeland Security Committees, and the Select Committee on Intel and the Committee on Indian Affairs. So that's always good to remind you and to know what he's doing up in D.C., and as well as he's always helping out on other committees and giving his insight onto those. So we had some big legislative wins right at the end of 2017. Tax reform, that was huge. That is going to affect Oklahomans all across our state, and we'll be seeing those here within the next year. We really believe that the tax reform, people are going to be able to reinvest not only in their businesses, but also in their communities and local economies, and people have more money in their pockets to spend here in towns and surrounding areas. So that was a huge win here, and we're really looking forward to see the dividends paying off on that front. Moving forward, it's been kind of a crazy year so far in 2018 with the government shut down just a couple weeks ago, and it's slowly getting back to that point. We've kind of been in a gridlock in D.C. on both sides, really moving to try to find some sort of common sense solutions to get that moving forward and to not have the government shut down, as it's never a productive method, as so many employees across our state and across the country are have time, they have to be laid off, and not laid off, but time where they're not working. So that's not good, but hopefully we'll find some sort of common sense solution. As always, the senator is continuing to work for Oklahomans and look out for our best interests. I had a discussion with him yesterday, actually, and this being an ag-rich community, discussing NAFTA, that's constantly on his plate, something he is always thinking about, and thinking about the producers in our area in the Northwest, as well as CAFTA, Central American Free Trade Agreement, and always has the thoughts of Oklahomans in his head, when we're moving forward on these. So if there's anything that our office can ever help you with, as always, feel free to reach out. We can help on a wide array of things when it's Medicare, Medicaid, tax issues, even if you have a postal service problem. Feel free to reach out to our office. If there's an issue with the federal government, please reach out, and we would love to help you out. Thank you very much, and I appreciate being here today.
Well, how are you all doing today? It really doesn't seem like I ever left the Capitol. I mean, with special sessions all summer long and all fall, and seemed like most of the winter we were in the Capitol. To give you an update on special session, what we did in December the 22nd, we recessed to the call of the chair, and we're going back in regular session. We're going to run 2 sessions that runs concurrently. I think we should have done that whenever the governor called the second special session. That's what she should have done, because it would have saved Oklahomans $30,000 a day. And she didn't. So we're there in the second special session that's going to start running concurrently with regular session. So to tell you a little about Jada must have gave me her voice today. What's going on with special session? So with the first special session, what we did in that, we addressed all the issues and had the $214 million that the health care agencies in Oklahoma was short. We had that firmed up and done. And then the governor went in and line item vetoed what we did in first session, so we had to come back. But what we addressed and what we got done, we're about $50 or $60 million short in cleaning up the $214 million that we had to go back in for. And I think we're going to take care of that the first week of special session. So I'm looking forward to the first week of regular session, Of regular session, we will have the special session cleaned up and done with. As far as regular session, the first year I was elected 3 years ago, that first year we were $611 million hole in the budget. The next year we was $1.3 billion hole in the budget, and last year $868 million hole in the budget. So the numbers we're looking at this year, about $100 million to a flat budget. And after looking at what I have looked at the last 3 years, it's kind of like, whew. But what we did last session and the measures that we adopted, the revenue packages that we passed, and then our economy turning around, is what's led to us having a better budget year this year. So I'm just thinking where I want to talk about Step Up Oklahoma first or last. I think I'll talk about it last because it may bring up a lot of questions. So I'm going to talk about what I'm running this year. So I've filed 4 bills. The first bill is a shell bill, and I have that in public safety. And whether you know or not, on the House side, we're only allowed to run 8 bills. We can only run 8 bills. And we have deadlines. And the last deadline to have final language in a bill was January 21st, I believe. And that's it, you're done. So it's good to have a shell bill out there that you can get, you have a title and you have it sitting out there, and what happens with shell bills, they go to Rules Committee. And if something pops up in the 3 months or 4 months that we're in session, we can pull that out and pull it out of rules and put a committee substitute for language in there. So it's just kind of an emergency bill for public safety, just in case something pops up that we need to address while we're there. My other 3 bills, I'm running my drone bill again. I had laid it over last year, mainly because I gave a gentleman my word I would have language in there, and towards the end of the session, I got a little upset because lobbyist was messing with this bill on the Senate side, and they were putting language in there after I'd already made a deal with the lobbyist saying this is, this is what I would do for their industry. This is where I would give on this drone bill. And I thought we had a deal. They were happy with it. I was happy with the language. And when it went to the Senate, they went over there and amended it more. And so when it came back to the House, I struck all their language and took it back to the original form. And in doing so, I struck the language on that this gentleman wanted, well, it was a senator, that he wanted in there, and I'd given him my word. And so I just laid it over because it was too late to fix it at that point. So I'm rerunning that bill. So if you all don't remember what this bill was, it was basically private property rights issue for me. You have to have permission if you're going to fly a drone over somebody else's property. And what my concerns is you have people in Oklahoma City and their backyard is a 60 by 60 fenced backyard. Our backyards out here are a little bigger than that. And I have just as much right to my privacy in my backyard as they do in the city in their 60 by 60 fenced in yard. And as we progress forward in technology, and drones are just cool. They're just cool. I think everybody and their dog's going to have a drone. And I think we need to start having regulations on how and where you fly them. Just because of the technology, and they can put cameras on those things, it's also a privacy issue. So that's why I'm going forward with my drone bill. My next bill is basically local control bill. And what it does is it gives final say to school boards on whether or not a charter school can move into their school district. Right now, they vote on it on the local level, but you can appeal it to the State Board of Education. And in the two appeals that have been appealed to them, they have overturned the local vote and went ahead and let that happen. I was on the school board for 10 years, it felt. I know what's happening in that school district, and I think those school board members in that school district has the best interest of that school district in mind, and I trust their decisions. And if they believe a charter school moving into their school district's a good thing, great. If they believe that their school can handle it and they don't need one, then their voice should be the last voice. They're local control. They are held accountable by the local residents, and they know what's going on in their school district a lot better than the State Board of Education knows what's going on in that school district. I had a lobbyist the other day call me and ask me how in love I was with that bill, and he was wanting me to drop it. He was lobbying for a charter school company, and I said, do you realize I was on the school board? Do you realize this is a local control issue? And he goes, yeah, but I got to try. No, that's one of the main reasons I ran my first year was because of what I was seeing when I was on the school board. So this issue is very important to me, and that's one of the bills. The second bill, as you know, it seems like every year that we've had a hole in the budget, we reach into our CERB accounts. And when I say we, I mean the collective we. I have fought them tooth and nail every year on them reaching into the CERB money. And the CERB money is the county roads and bridge funds. but they reach in there and they grab 50 million, or they grab. I think we've been pretty stagnant or pretty stable on every year $50 million, except for this year. This year we took $50 million in regular session, but with the way the governor vetoed what happened in special session, they took another 80 million for a total of 130 million out of our county roads and bridge funds this year. Now, I'm sure you guys driven on the roads out here, especially our county roads, that they need help. And we don't need to continue to do that. And I was coming home from special session and I kind of laughed to myself and I said, shoot, we don't need a rainy day fund. We've got the CERB account, because it seems like every time we need money, we run over to the CERB account. And that's just wrong. That money is put in there for our roads. And at one time in Oklahoma, our road projects, whenever they decided to do a road project and the House and Senate approved it, the powers to be in the legislature, along with the money that they sent for the road project, was also a little note on there on where that road project would be. Now, that's why you get to certain districts in Oklahoma and they've got grandiose highways, and other districts have potholes and dirt roads and barely struggling along. But in 2006, we changed that. We gave ODOT the control to fix the roads, non-political, on needs, on priorities. What needs fixed, and let's go fix it. But with doing that, they got to have money to do that. So what my bill does, it doesn't fix the whole problem. It's just a common sense bill. What it does is it gives the counties, right now counties can bid out their road material for 6 months, which is basically one project. What my bill would do would allow them to bid out a year's worth of road material at once. So it's the philosophy of going to Sam's. You know, if you go to the convenience store and buy a roll of toilet paper, it's costing you $15. If you go to Sam's and buy that big bulk, it's cheaper because you're buying in bulk. Same concept with this. If the county commissioners can bid out all of their road material needs for the entire year, instead of one load of gravel, they're buying 100 loads of gravel. So it should save the counties a lot of money. And it's for me, it's common sense. So I'm running that bill. And that covers my bills. So I'm going to move into the Step Up Oklahoma plan. How many of y'all have heard of the Step Up Oklahoma? How many of y'all like Step Up Oklahoma? Yeah, that's a lot of us. Just kind of, there's parts of it that's good. There's parts of it I cannot stand. What worries me most about Step Up Oklahoma is I do not think that they brought in rural Oklahoma and asked them what they were thinking. To me, this looks like an Oklahoma City and Tulsa deal. You have the millionaires and billionaires of the state that came together and said, we can fix this deal. That bothers me. And I can tell you a story that went all over me. We were at caucus retreat, and this group came in and proposed the Step Up to us, told us their plans, what they wanted to do. And a representative from Weatherford had a question. He stood up and he said, you know, every time the cigarette tax was put on the board, he voted for it. He said, but I have a constituent that sells lots of tobacco in my district. Have you reached out to him and asked him what he thought the $1.50 sales tax on cigarettes would do to his industry, and that would they consider negotiating on that? And this guy, in the most condescending, looking down his nose, looked at that representative and said, "We don't have time to talk to every convenience store in Cheyenne, Oklahoma." Now, what went all over me was this representative was not talking about the convenience store in Cheyenne, Oklahoma. He was talking about a tobacco distributor in Weatherford that may be the largest tobacco distributor in the state of Oklahoma. But it was that attitude that irritated me to death, that they did not have time to talk to rural Oklahoma to ask their input on how it would affect them. And that went all over me. The other part of it that scares me to death is so the Step Up Oklahoma plan has well, it's going to be $800 million of taxes, increased in taxes, revenue coming in from taxes. It's reforms, and what they've stuck in here in reforms, and they have been trying to do it for the last 20 years. It's come from Tulsa, but it's home rule. How many in here know what home rule is? Okay, so what home rule is you don't have county commissioners anymore. You will have a county superintendent, a county administrator. And what scares me to death with that is I think rural Oklahoma will lose their voice. Because right now, and I'll use Texas County for an example. Jack Strain is the voice for the western side of Texas County. Ted Keeling is the voice for the eastern side of Texas County. By having just one county superintendent, I think you lose your voices outside of your major metropolitan areas. And I'm not calling Guyman a metropolitan area, but those outreaches of the counties lose their voice. Those people vote for that county commissioner. He is accountable to those people. And by doing away with that, those people lose their voice. And in America, every voice counts. And it concerns me that we're doing away with an opportunity for somebody to voice their opinion. And it all comes down to accountability. Whether it's on the local level or it's on the state level, it's accountability. That's why I have a problem with all the boards that the state of Oklahoma has. My phone blew up here a few weeks ago when Preston Dorflinger got the $18,000 pay raise. In the Department of Health that last year lost $30 million. And I won't say lost $30 million. I've lost the keys to my pickup accidentally. They misappropriated, misfunded $30 million. Now that agency gave their agency head a $18,000 a year pay raise. But it was a board that did that. My phone blew up. Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? We didn't do that. It was a board that approved that pay raise. Boards in this state have way too much power and, in my opinion, zero accountability to the voters. They're appointed, they're not voted on, and they have zero accountability. Everything that happens at the local level, whether it's your school district, your county, your city, all the way to that state capital, everything we do, we need to be held accountable to you, the voters, for everything we do. And if we mess up, vote us out. But these boards are appointed, and they're appointed to terms from 4 to 5 to 9 years that they're there.
They're appointed by the governor?
Yeah, and usually it's the governor, the pro tem and the Speaker of the House will appoint the board. So, like the board that cut our legislative fee, or our legislative pay this year. So if you didn't know that, we got a pay cut. We went from $38,000 a year to $35,000 a year. And on that board, there's 9 that sits on the board. The Speaker of the House appoints 2, the pro tem 2, and the governor 5. And that's kind of how these boards are. And I don't know if that's the makeup of every board, that scenario of 2, 2, and 5, but it's the pro tem, the speaker, and the governor. So anyway, the home rule, the reforms that we're doing in Step Up, some of them are good. We need reforms. But the way they're packaging this together, it's all or nothing. And we've just kind of started talking about this 3 weeks ago, a month ago. And you're talking about $800 million of taxes. You're talking about all kinds of reforms, good and bad. And they roll this out here, and we only talk about it for outside of session. Most members have been home. If you remember, we just went through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We're going to vote on this, part of this, on Tuesday. I have a problem with this. I haven't seen language. But yet, we're going to vote on it on Tuesday. Unless this thing is wrapped in silver lining and just glistening with gold, I'm a no on this, mainly on principle, because we're voting on Tuesday. I have not seen any language. I told somebody yesterday, this is kind of like Obamacare. Vote for it and then figure out what's in it. It worries me. And I don't believe it's wrapped in silver and glistening like gold. So I'm going to be a no on this. And one thing is that they haven't talked to rural Oklahoma. And with everybody in this room knows I'm a wind supporter. And when this came up, they're wanting to put GPT on wind. What worries me are the deals that's made at that Capitol. And trust me, there are deals made every day. What worries me is there's going to be a deal made on GPT with wind. Right now, today, and you hear the oil companies talking about the effective rate, and the gross production on oil. The effective rate in Oklahoma is 5.3%. That you just keep hearing that, the effective rate. Well, what they're talking about with the effective rate is their total tax burden. So oil pays 5.3% effective rate. That's their tax burden, what it costs them to be in business, what they give Oklahoma for being in business in Oklahoma and taxes. The effective rate for wind. Now, wind only pays ad valorem right now. And if you read my column this week, whenever I decided I may not be as big a wind supporter as I am a county supporter, the reason I support wind so much is that they pay ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem taxes stay local. 100% of those ad valorem taxes off the windmills in Texas County stays in Texas County. They go to our schools. They go to our county government. What worries me, like I said, the effective rate on wind is 14%. On oil and gas, it's 5.3%. What worries me, and I've had wind companies say, we're not going to be double taxed. We will sue. We will, it will hurt them dramatically. I actually had a guy yesterday from the Wind Coalition said if in these reforms, if they cap our incentives, which would be retroactive, because wind farms in Oklahoma receive no incentives today. Now they're falling off because we made a deal, and the ones that was on it gets to finish that out. But if they cap them, he said, we will have wind farms that go bankrupt. They will shut down. What does that mean? That means that if a school district passed a bond and those wind farms are paying most of that bond and they file bankruptcy, they're not paying that bond. But that school district still has to pay the bond. Who's picking up the tab? It's the property owners. I do not want to see them mess with GPT on wind. Number one, all of it stays local. That's the big fight that we've had for my 3 years, that they've been hammering wind, and oh, they're getting these incentives, What I see what they're unhappy with is the people at 2300 in Lincoln in Oklahoma City sees the money leaving the capital for these incentives. But they don't see anything coming back in. Well, the reason they don't see anything coming back in is because all of the goodies, all the benefits stay local. When I first went down to the Capitol, I felt my job was to bring opportunity to District 61. Not how much money I can extract from the taxpayers to take to the Capitol. It is to bring opportunity to District 61. But with that being said, and I'm just going to use this means nothing, I'm just going to use NextEra as an example. NextEra is the largest utility in the United States. It's Florida Power and Light. NextEra's responsibility is to their shareholders. As much good as wind does for Texas County and the Panhandle, their number one priority is their shareholders. So when they go to the Capitol and they're negotiating a deal, they're not looking after Texas County. They're looking after NextEra and what's best for NextEra. Now on the flip side, you sent me down to make sure Texas County is taken care of, that we don't get messed around in a deal. And I've done that. I spent an hour on the phone with the speaker telling him we do not need to do GPT on wind because of this. Bottom line, a wind farm, and this is the problem with wind, it's so simple. Because bottom line, end of the day, all a wind farm is a piece of equipment. It's a piece of equipment that harvests wind energy. And since statehood, equipment has been charged ad valorem. Ad valorem is a county-based funding. And we're messing with it down there. I think if we do this, there's going to be lawsuits. I think school districts will sue us. I think counties will sue us. I think property owners, if they don't sue us, they should. We have to take care of our counties. And what I see with this is we're starting to mess with our tax structure. We're starting to mess with what is typically an ad valorem tax, and we're trying to get the state sticky fingers on it. And everyone in here knows when we send dollars downstate, we get pennies back. The counties used to get a lot more money from oil and gas than they do today. until they put GPT. GPT is an in lieu of ad valorem tax, and it goes to the capital. GPT also, by the way, is a tax on a severance of a mineral taken from Oklahoma. What's wind take from Oklahoma? Nothing. As you all are aware, and you will see later on today, that wind's going to blow today. And I guarantee you that wind's going to blow tomorrow, the next day, and next week. Just as hard as it blew today. They're not taking anything from Oklahoma. But GPT is a tax on a taking. But the problem is the state government is trying to figure out how to extract money from a industry. And I hate that. I hate that. I don't believe the state government should be extracting any money from anybody. Now, I think everyone should pay their fair share of taxes. And when I say that is, I look at one of my jobs, one of my primary jobs is to make sure we fund the core functions of government. And we have to have revenue to fund the core functions of government. But if you remember, when I started, we're looking at about $100 million to a flat budget. Actually, the way the numbers are coming in and revenue coming into the state, I think we're probably closer to a flat budget this year. Why do we need to tax Oklahomans $800 million when we're looking at kind of a flat budget? Do we need pay raises in the state? Yes. Teachers need a pay raise. And not only teachers, state employees, ODOT workers, DOC workers, they haven't had a pay raise in 12 years. So yes, we need to have some revenue, but we don't need $800 million in revenue. It's overkill. It is the people at the Capitol figuring out how they can extract money from you. You know, my heart goes out to teachers. They need a pay raise. But do you all realize DOC workers, guards at prisons, make about $13 an hour? These are the people that's guarding and taking care of Oklahoma's criminal population. And I don't want to say the dregs of society, but I mean, there's some bad dudes in prison, and these guards are making $13 an hour. And in some cases, they're putting their lives on the line. I mean, we had a riot in Cushing, and they're making $13 an hour. Our infrastructure is horrible in the prison systems, in our roads. I mean, it's time that we start investing back in Oklahoma. But $800 million? It's a little bit much, and if you remember, I believe it was Bill Clinton that said this, don't let a crisis go without taking advantage of it. I don't remember the exact quote, but take advantage of a crisis. And that's what I see happening down there. We have been in a crisis in Oklahoma, but we're about out of it. We've about fixed it. But I see people want to take advantage of this and throw on a bunch of taxes that we don't need. My job is to take care of the needs of this state, and I will. But I'm not going to overtax you. I'm going to make sure we have revenue that we take care of the core functions of government. And the core functions of government is education, transportation, public safety, and health care. The bill I ran last year, the audit bill, performance audit bill, we should, I think in reality, we should save about $100 million a year just in government waste.
I'm KC also, but The official, the Department of Health that got the $18,000 raise, what happened? Did the governor do anything? Or can't the governor say anything? Or
So it's Preston Dorflinger. How many in here know Preston Dorflinger or heard of him? How many in here like Preston Dorflinger? Yeah. And I've made this comment a lot about why I want to keep our money local, because I trust our county commissioners a lot more than I trust Preston Dorflinger. That was a board. Preston Dorflinger and the governor are like this. So in the debacle in the healthcare department, Preston Dorflinger was over OMES, and we like to call it OMES. That is the largest agency in the state. They take care of the state property, the state fleets, the computer systems in the state. I mean, whatever the state does, OMES facilitates it. And I think, well, and visiting with the chairman of the committee that's investigating the Department of Health, Preston Dorflinger is up to here in that mess. And I think when they moved him over there, he went over there to clean it up. And what I mean by cleaning it up is protect the people that knew what was going on over there. And I think it's not over with the Department of Health. I think DHS was doing this. I think there's several agencies doing it. I know they're going to go and look at the DHS. They're going to look at OMES, the investigative committee. They're going to look at Department of Tourism. And they're not just picking on these agencies. They're going to go in there and look at them because of what they found in their investigations through Department of Health.
who's looking at them?
Well, right now, so we have an investigative committee that is bringing them in, asking them questions. They're having to testify. But with Department of Health, the FBI is in here. And I don't know if you're familiar with what went on. It was a shell game. And so they were taking money from this program to fund this program. And then whenever they got audited to see they kept moving this money around, well, last year, after a third year of a big hole in the budget, they didn't have money to rob from Paul to pay Peter. And they got caught. Well, one of the programs that they were taking money out of to move around was the David White program, the AIDS federal program. So they were doing this with federal money. So the FBI is in here investigating. I believe probably some people are going to go to prison over this deal.
Diana Brown. Casey, we appreciate everything you do for us, but I have a question for Tanner. Actually, quick story. Tanner, I've been helping my father with some issues and had to contact Social Security. And I called the 800 number for Social Security, and there was an hour wait for an answer. So I called the local office, which ours is Pampa, Texas, which is like an hour and a half or more away. And it was 30 minutes before I got somebody on the phone. I asked for an appointment, and they said they did not make appointments for the service that I needed. I had to drive 2 hours to Amarillo and sit and wait and see if I could get service. And I think that's a travesty for our senior citizens to have to go through something like that. So my father would not have been able to do that himself. We do not have services here from Social Security at all. So if you can work on that, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I will pass that along, and there's no reason for, living out here to be driving multiple hours. So thank you very much. I'll pass that along.
Hi, I'm John Schmidt, and Casey, thank you for coming all the way out here again. We appreciate the news and everything. You mentioned about the teachers and stuff and the pay raise again. I hear that's going through again, and boy, that's just beyond so important, okay? One of the things I am hearing that concerns me is that, again, somebody is going to try to get the teachers' pay raise out of the teachers' retirement fund.
Oh.
They need to understand down there. Tell them no, hell no, it ain't going to happen, okay? The Panhandle will not let them do that. They need new revenue to fund that. You've said that. What can I use $800 million for? I can think of a school up here that was built the year this state became a state, and it's still operating. Okay, so there are multiple places I could put $800 million. But again, I'd like to remind you that I know where I can get you at least double what you're missing right now and a huge chunk of what's next year if you need new revenue. I'll be happy to talk with you about that.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. And with I don't think they're going to touch the teacher. Well, I know they're not going to touch the teacher retirement fund to fund the teacher pay raise. The teacher pay raise is going to come out of the $800 million.
They have a history of doing that.
They do, but not recent. Not recent, and I'll tell you why. So I think it was in 2006, the teacher retirement fund was almost defunct because legislators kept robbing it. And Representative, trying to think of his name. He's running for state treasurer. McDaniel, thank you. He spent his entire career at the Capitol making sure that the retirement system was fixed. And right now, in the work that he's done for 12 years, we're looking, I think we're about 70, I want to say about 70% funded in the teacher retirement. And by 2030, if we keep doing what we're doing, in 2030, it will be fully funded and we're back on track. But because of what we had to do the last 12 years, every legislator up there understands the hard work it took to get the teacher retirement fund back on its feet. I don't think they're going to go in and tear it up and reach in there. That is one problem that we have with term limits. Like I said, everyone up there knows the hard work that was done to do that, but when they all leave and we get a new bunch in, and they look over and go, hey, looky here. We've got to put a lock on that box and make sure they don't continue to go raid those funds. But right now, I have not heard one word about robbing the retirement fund to give the teachers a pay raise.
Josh Setzer. We'll stick with education. Last year's Teacher of the Year for Oklahoma went to Texas because they get better raise. Mm-hmm. And yesterday's reports came out that we're bottom 10 in the country, worst educated states. So what are we doing to fix that?
Well, we've got in this Step Up Oklahoma plan a $5,000 pay raise for teachers. Last year we had a teacher pay raise we passed through the House, and what it was a Step Up program. And this is looking at a budget that was $868 million hole, but the House found a way to give teachers a pay raise, and it wasn't all at once, but the first year they'd get a $1,000 pay raise, the second year $2,000, and the third year $3,000, which would mean after 3 years they would be bumped up to $6,000. I can tell you on the House side, now I think the Senate held it up for political reasons last year. On the House side, that is one of our number one priorities is to get teachers a pay raise. We talk about it every caucus meeting. It's a number one priority. As far as keeping up with Texas, I don't know if we can. I read a couple weeks ago where I think it was the lieutenant governor is running for governor of Texas, and he's going to push a $10,000 pay raise for teachers from Texas. We're trying $5,000. I mean, we keep trying to build up, and they just keep raising the bar. And you look at the wealth of Texas. I don't know if we will ever be able to catch up to them in teacher pay raise, but the other side of it is it doesn't cost as much to live here as it does in Texas. But that's what we're looking at. And if they give the 10,000 and we give 5, we still haven't caught them.
You talked a little bit about revenue generating in the last special session. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Just a few examples of.
Okay, so as far as what helped the revenue coming into the state. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was those, and I call them little tax increases that we did during regular session. So as you are well aware, we have to have 75% of the House to raise taxes, vote in the House to raise taxes. That is, in my opinion, unattainable. What that does is it allows a handful of people in the House to hold the state hostage. And I say this because that's what I thought was happening last session, is we had a handful of people holding the state hostage for political purposes when we had our health department needing money. We had hospitals on the verge of closing. We had Advantage waiver on the line, and they were holding us hostage for political reasons. And at that 75% threshold, that's what happened. So what we did last session was 51 vote measures. And, 640 went in, I think, in 92. And I graduated college in 1992. When I graduated college, I went and bought a brand new pickup. Ford F-250, four-wheel drive, cost me $22,000. Do you know what the same pickup costs you today? But we have not raised taxes since 1992. Official taxes. What we have done, and I hear people say this all the time, you're feeing us to death. We pay all these fees. Yeah, because that's a 51 vote measure. And so what we did is we took incentives away. So when you take incentives away, that's a 51 vote measure. So one of the things is excise tax on new vehicles. That was an incentive. We took that away. So that went up. I think it went up to like 4.9. But with that being said, we went from the lowest excise tax in the region to the lowest excise tax paid on new vehicles in the region. We're still lower than any state around us by doing that. The other thing is we took away the incentive for wind, the zero emission. That's saving us about $50 million a year. It was a lot of those little things that we did that has helped with the revenue.
Okay. Next question is for Senator Langford's field rep. Thank you again for coming out here, and please extend that thanks to the senator. You said we're talking about the tax cuts in D.C. Mm-hmm. Do you have any studies to show how that might affect northwestern Oklahoma?
Yeah, so from Northwest Oklahoma perspective, obviously, very ag-based. The money that, with the corporate tax, being cut, and a lot of the money that, from the tax bill that, is going to be cut. Now, agriculture, we'll be able to reinvest within that. But from specific studies, I don't have any on me. I can get you some information regarding that after this. But from a specific study standpoint, I do not have anything. But I think when we're looking at it, we can look at it from, people have more money in their pocket to spend on, here in Guyman or even in the surrounding counties and communities, as well as, out on the farm. They'll be able to save more money by not paying it back to the government, and they can buy, more equipment, things like that. So I'll look on, we can talk after and find maybe a specific study on that. Thank you.
Jeremiah Mallard. Morning, Casey. I appreciate you and support you. But my question is back to the education and the teachers' pay. So I heard you reference the $800 million 3 different times after you said you weren't in favor of it. Mm-hmm. And then you say the caucuses, you guys, it's always a popular topic and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm worn out with it always being a popular topic. I'm worn out with nothing changing. Let's say that Step Up Oklahoma doesn't go through, or, what are we going to do so we're not talking about teacher raises anymore and we actually get somewhere to put money into our education?
Right. So when I said I am a no on this plan, this $800 million, that doesn't mean it's dead and we're putting it away. What the big problem I have with the Step Up Oklahoma plan is we have not had time to vet it. And like I said, I have not even seen language on it. I don't know if you saw how I voted in special session. That was, I believe, was $400 million. This is twice that. And we're voting on Tuesday, and I haven't seen the language. I don't know how and the exact logistics on how they're going to do this. And I promise you, I'm not going to vote on something that they flop out to us on Monday, and if it's that thick of bills and I can't get through it, because I can tell you one trick that they do down there is they shine that pony up, but he's got a limp, and they stick stuff in there that's you know, for example, teacher pay raise. It's a high priority, and so they get a bill out there that says this is going to give teachers a pay raise. This is going to give teachers a pay raise, but down there in the fine print, the very last page that you're probably going to miss, they say, oh, well, also we're going to take all the money from the Panhandle to do that. Now, I'm exaggerating on that, but they seem to always stick, and a lot of people call it a poison pill in there, and they call it that because it's just DOA, because they're trying to hide something in legislation to push it on through also. I'm just being very conservative on I'm not a definite no, but I want to see the language, and I just don't think if we get it on Monday, I will have time to thoroughly read what's in this by Tuesday. I actually called the floor leader yesterday and said, you know, can you move this back, you know, till next week, so we have at least a little time to read what's in it. And he said, no, he's getting pressured. I mean, this Step Up group is putting the full court press on to get it done right now. And it's just, I want to make sure that we are taken care of out here and that there's not a poison pill in there hidden somewhere, because they do that. And I just want to be very conservative on this vote because it's such a big deal. But as far as, are we going to do no revenue raising measures? You know, if this dies, we're done. No, that's not true. We're going to do, you know, because we have to start investing in Oklahoma. It's just, there's no plan that's perfect, but the problem is they're pushing it through so fast that there's no negotiation, there's no compromise. This is it or nothing. No, there's going to be something.
It just seems like a lot of plans and no execution.
Yeah, well, you have to figure on the House side that there's 101 of us, and I promise you it's like herding cats down there. There's four factions in the House. It's not just Republican and Democrat. There's four factions in the House that are going four different directions. Jada back here. Oh, right here.
I moved, sorry.
Oh,
Miranda Gilbert, thank you for coming, both of you. I have a quick question related to what he just asked. There's been some talk with Step Up Oklahoma being pressured because there's a possibility of GPT being on the general ballot for the people. Can you explain that to them and how maybe that could happen and be an answer to all this?
Right, and yes, that's exactly why these oil companies is pushing this now. Now, you know, I mentioned my vote in special session. That was to put 4% on oil and gas in special session. Harold Hamm brought busloads of employees to the Capitol to protest that. OIPA members was sending threatening messages to us on the floor as we were voting, saying, if you vote for this, we will run somebody against you. We will go against you in your campaign. And I think probably some of you all got those nasty phone calls about me. I'm really not a tax hog. But that was OIPA and Harold Hamm who paid for that. But they were threatening us on the floor. And one of their lobbyists was in my office. And I said, look, you know, you've got this ballot initiative that's coming that's going to be 7%. Now, politically, wouldn't it be smarter to go ahead and take 4% right now? And that gives you something to campaign on?